A 23-year-old OnlyFans model, Lily Phillips, recently made headlines for her challenge where she was intimate with 100 men in a single day, and it's got the internet absolutely concerned.
I'm Lily Phillips, and today I'm getting ran through by 100 guys.
While that alone is wild enough to dominate every headline, here's where things get heavy. After the whole ordeal, she opened up in a YouTube documentary uploaded by Josh Pieters about how the experience left her feeling, well, not great.
I think sometimes feeling so robotic. Sometimes you'd disassociate and be it's not normal sex at all. In my head right now, I can think of 5, 6 guys, 10 guys that I remember, and that's it. But it's just, I don't know, it's just weird, isn't it? If I didn't have the videos, I wouldn't have known I've done 100, But yeah.
All right, this one's a lot to unpack. She talked about dissociating, about how emotionally intense it all was, and honestly, it's hard to watch. This wasn't the look of someone feeling empowered or fulfilled. It was the look of someone who might be deeply struggling. And here's the thing, this isn't just some headline. It's a real person, a young woman navigating an industry and a culture that constantly pushes boundaries for clicks and cash. And while the documentary treats her with absolute respect, with Josh visibly concerned at times for Lily's well-being.
Do you feel safe?
I'm making money off something that I think guys will do anyway. Guys are always going to sexualize me, so I may as well try and profit off that bit.
I mean, not all guys are going to sexualize you.
I don't really know.
The internet is flooded with opinions about her. Some people are outraged, others are heartbroken, and a few are just here for the chaos. But behind all of that noise, there's a looming question. What's going on with Lily Phillips? And more importantly, is she okay? 23-year-old Brit Lily Phillips talks about having been on OnlyFans since her university days, which later unexpectedly turned into a career that her parents ultimately ended up supporting, where she now employs 9 members of staff who help her film and produce content. Throughout Josh's documentary, Lily's low self-esteem and negative self-talk drew some attention.
Just good for one thing, me, honestly.
I mean, I'm a part of the problem. It's so hard because doing extreme stuff like this is not normal.
And it seemed like Lily was unaware how some STDs could spread.
So you would let these guys do that on your face?
Yeah.
And in your mouth?
Yeah.
What if they had HIV?
Is that where it comes from? Was in the mouth?
It can.
Oh, really? See, I've never really thought about that.
This wasn't the first time Lily had tried ramping up for her ultimate goal of breaking a record.
When I did 37 guys in a day, I genuinely can't remember any of their faces.
Right.
Or maybe if I saw their then I'd recognize them. But
The current world record is actually much higher than sleeping with 100 people in one day. The record was set 2 decades ago in 2004 by Lisa Sparks, who is reported to bed 919 men at an adult event held in a secret warehouse in Warsaw, Poland. And in hindsight, even she thought it was a bad idea. To be completely transparent with you all, this event is the one thing I regret doing in the 23+ years in the adult industry to this day. This was also the only job I agreed to perform strictly for the money. This event was never anything I ever planned on, and the entire event was a complete shit show. I wish this topic would die and we all move on to something relevant. I was disappointed, but was excited to fly home and not spend any time in a foreign jail. After the documentary, many comments expressed deep concern for Lily's emotional and psychological well-being, especially after witnessing her talking about her dissociative state during the challenge, along with how she broke into tears during Josh's interview. You just start to disassociate. Babe, that's called your brain and body trying to protect you from trauma. I hope she realizes her not remembering any of the guys' faces is nothing but a trauma response. This isn't empowerment. This is self-harm. Very rarely do you witness trauma being delivered to one's psyche in real time. It's unfortunate that her life has led her down this path. Money isn't everything. This should be categorized as a horror documentary. People call out Lily's production team for being exploitative, arguing that the stunt capitalized on Lily's pain for views. The PA giggling and saying she took it like a champ is so sick. The whole thing is absolutely vile. 9 people on her payroll is most of what you need to know. That's 9 people who see her all the time and have a financial stake in convincing her to keep going, no matter what. I get that she can make her own decisions, but we're all less in control than we think. And the people around her are clearly standing on the gas pedal while cutting the brakes. None of them are friends. None will be there if she decides to stop. Deeply reprehensible. Why are the other people blurred if they really support what she does? Why are they hiding and letting only her to be exposed? Her team are beyond scum if they can keep letting her do that, when there were no safeguards in place and she doesn't even know how life-changing STIs are spread. I really hope someone gives her a big hug and not someone that's making bank off her. YouTuber Cataclysm also talked about how Lily's team didn't take the necessary measures to protect her.
I feel like the biggest thing to start off with when we're looking at this whole how many people can I take in one day, where are the precautions for STDs, STIs, and all that kind of thing? Because I know that in the work industry, people have regular testing to make sure that they're not contracting things and passing it on to other people. But when you are sleeping with this many people in one go, how do you avoid picking up something from somebody and passing it to the next person? How do we know that that is being adhered to? Because I'm 99% sure, like with Bonnie Blue, the people that she's sleeping with one after another aren't all creators. I don't think they are. I think they are just random people from what I have figured out from her content.
Viewers of Josh's documentary liked how he approached the topic and how he treated Lily with respect. I really appreciate how compassionate and sincere you were with her the entire time. She said so many disparaging things about herself, and you challenged her on all of them in such a respectful manner. Based on the way her team treated her, I would imagine she's used to being around people who reflect her negative view of herself back to her. Even the interviewer was just in pure shock and disbelief. The way when Josh said, not all guys would try to sexualize you, she seemed to be taken aback really tells you how she didn't have one man in her life who genuinely cared for her. I hope she heals from whatever demons she's fighting and finds people who view her more than an object and treat her with love and respect. Josh seemed like the only guy who actually cared about her. This is just depressing. Some people showed concern over how Lily didn't fully understand what she was doing at her young age. Only 23? I look back to when I was 23 and realize how young I was, physically and definitely mentally/emotionally. There's a weird innocence to her. She's convinced herself that she loves doing it when I imagine what she's really after is actual love. Sounds corny, but I guarantee she's burst into tears if someone held her who genuinely cared about her and told her the truth about all this. And they might be right. Neuroscientists believe that the prefrontal cortex of our brain continues to develop until 25 years of age. Viewers were analyzing Lily's behavior and how she was treated by others. That showed her naivety. She repeating to herself, "I'm excited," seems like she was trying to convince herself. She's talking about how people think so much less of her because of her job, but there is no one on this planet who thinks less of her than herself. This is heartbreaking. Something is wrong if your dad is telling you his friends told him they saw you and he doesn't even care. So, what do professionals in the mental health care industry think about the situation? A licensed therapist weighed in on TikTok comparing the behavior to addiction.
So on Saturday, I got run through by 101 guys.
Ooh, okay. Did you know some of the stuff we do is because we have unresolved childhood wounds that we are still living with, and they impact our behavior to this day? Now, I'm not going to talk about this girl because I don't know her, and I don't think it's my place as a therapist to speak on her. But what I'm going to speak about is the different behaviors we might have and how addiction is often evidence of an inner child wound. Because when you're looking to sex or alcohol or drugs, what often people are looking for and what I see in therapy is people trying to numb themselves from their reality or trying to use something that either affects their perception of reality or their coherence as a way to step away from perhaps the memories they might have of their childhood or the pain or the inner torment they might experience in the day-to-day. It's a way to kind of push the pain further down. However, when you're constantly trying to push the pain further down, when you're chasing dopamine, especially when you end up in a place of addiction, what it often does is it begins to become damaging for your life, for your general health and well-being, for your body, for your mental state. And when you push and push and push your emotions, when you're pushing them further and further down, what happens is at some point they all have to burst out. It is impossible to completely get rid of our emotions and get rid of our memories. And it will probably be at the most inconvenient point where these emotions will emerge. You might find that you're really irritable randomly, where if someone says something to you, you overreact. And that that's kind of a foretaste of those emotions trying to get out. My point is you might be looking to alcohol, drugs, or your addiction. You might be in the cycle of addiction because you are trying to avoid the feelings of the trauma you experienced, avoid the feelings of the neglect you experience. Overcoming addiction to a person who's addicted, or at least to the people I've worked with who have been experiencing addiction, feels like an impossible end goal. Like they can't imagine their lives without this thing that they are turning to. They can't imagine feeling okay without the thing that gives them that dopamine hit. And so when people just say, well, just stop, like it's just so dismissive of the actual process of overcoming addiction and also the struggle of overcoming addiction. Work on your inner child wounds. Work on healing the things you experienced when you were younger, because that might be the key to why you feel the need to keep running to sex, running to alcohol, running to drugs as a means of comfort and as a means of safety and security.
And here's what a trauma specialist had to say.
I think sometimes like feeling so like robotic, like by the 30th, you know, like when we're getting on a bit, sometimes you'd like disassociate and be like,
I'm a trauma specialist. I work with people who have experienced all types of trauma, and I also work with clients who are in the public eye. So I have a very good understanding of what this girl is experiencing right now on lots of different levels. Disassociation is a very typical trauma response. And I know she's just kind of saying it here, but she means it. She's disassociating when this is happening to her. Disassociation is a coping mechanism, and it's the mind's response to something that is overwhelming. So it's overload for the mind at the time, and your brain uses disassociation to essentially protect itself. It's protecting itself from things that it cannot cope with, whether that's emotionally or situationally. And this is just one tiny part of this documentary. Another part where she thinks back to the event that happened, where she starts crying and she gets very emotional and she has to walk away. This is also a trauma response. Anytime you think back to something that's happened and you experience emotion as if you're back in that event, even though it's in the past, that is trauma. What happens when you have trauma is your mind, every time it thinks of that event, or you're in an environment similar, or you talk about that event, your mind believes the original event is either about to happen, it's happening now, or it's just happened. That's why the reaction comes up. Trauma is trauma, and if she leaves this and she doesn't get the help that would be good to do, this is going to impact the rest of her life.
With mental health professionals weighing in, what did other people in the adult industry have to say? Lily thought that they'd look down on her.
I think other people in the industry definitely look down on me for doing this, but I think at the end of the day, people forget that it's also my fantasy, and this is also something that I'm really enjoying and want to do and have wanted to do before I was even in the industry.
But turns out the reaction was mostly concern about her mental state. I was an escort for a while. Her dissociating comment really hit close to home. And also the feeling of needing to act like you genuinely enjoy what you do. I don't think she does. I think she is either a people pleaser or just doesn't want to ruin the fantasy. I hope she's doing okay. And Josh actually asked the opinion of another OF creator named Alex during the documentary.
Phillips is planning to sleep with 100 men in a single day for OnlyFans content.
I think it's really sad. I just worry about her mental health. I'm hoping it's a hoax and it's not gonna actually happen. It's like medically, is she gonna be in a lot of pain? Mentally?
Only a small number of viewers questioned the men who participated in the stunt. Her being a gifted single rose and the men saying she promised 5 minutes with no concern of her well-being really shows they do not care at all. Why do this to yourself? LOL, only 2 out of 100 guys were willing to talk on camera with their faces blurred. That should tell you how shameful the whole thing is. Imagine how many married men and boyfriends are lining up for stuff like this, and then coming home to some of y'all. Absolutely disturbing and disgusting. And Julie Bindel, a feminist campaigner against violence, had some thoughts to share.
If a man is paying a woman for any kind of service, whether it's from behind a screen or direct, then they believe that they can ask for what they want. Many of the men that I've interviewed who are prolific brothel users of prostituted women will say the reason they go to women selling is so they can get what they want, something that their girlfriends and wives don't want to do. Degrading, painful, harmful sexual acts that leave trauma, both physical and mental. I'm not surprised at any of it. And this is why the onus has to be on the men. I'm not suggesting that Lily is helpless, has absolutely no agency whatsoever. I'm not suggesting that she has been forced or had a gun held to her head. But come on, let's look a little bit behind these headlines. See a young woman who is harming herself, and it's clearly self-harm, and the men involved as punters, as those willing to have sex with her, are compounding that harm and causing her great physical and mental damage. And they need to look at themselves. If you imagine why a man would want to have sex with a woman where 50, 60, 70 men have been before in the immediate instance, and know how desperately upset and damaged she must be, how can they possibly go through with it? This is why the onus has to be on the men.
A portion of comments on the documentary were pointing out how platforms like OnlyFans encourage people to do increasingly shocking stunts to go viral and gain attention, and how it reflected on society as a whole. She makes it sound like a food review. I don't know if I'd recommend it. It took a lot longer than I thought. It's not for the weak girls. Mental illness at its finest, truly. And what a sick society we live in. Ban OnlyFans. This documentary is devastating to watch as a human. I found the mess in the room a symbol of the mental state of the people. Many people across the internet thought Lily was an adult making her own choices, regardless of the reasons. She's making around $500K a month. She's never going to stop. Unpopular opinion, but I have absolutely no empathy for her. She was a willing participant, and she feeds into this culture of degradation of women that the rest of us have to deal with. Calling this trauma is a slap in the face to women who've been through actual trauma out of their control. She orchestrated this and clearly doesn't care. I'm sick of this infantilization of grown women. It was her own choice to do it, so why does she deserve my sympathy? She caused this. She decided to do this to herself. She only has herself to blame. She is not a victim of anything. Some people seemed more concerned about the Airbnb than Lily herself. Imagine being the Airbnb owner and finding out this is what your house was used for. No neighbors complained about the revolving traffic of strange men. Haha, and finding out what those stains on the carpet is. You need permission to film in an Airbnb, so owner must have known. Would be crazy to do that without permission, as it's very public. Given prostitution is not legal in the UK, this would not have been legal. They basically used the Airbnb as a brothel. The lack of hygiene is gross. Those bed sheets need to be burnt. One more reason not to stay at random Airbnbs. Imagine a black light in that room. You'll go blind. I hope the Airbnb finds you. However, Lily had an answer. 5-star review. And she also made a post with her side of the story. A little message to anyone who feels offended that I got ran through by 101 guys. While some ex-users claim that she had gotten multiple STDs from her 100-person stunt, Lily Phillips tests positive for chlamydia, gonorrhea, and HSV-2 after sleeping with 100 men in one day. Wow. Lily posted her test from the 9th of December refuting the claims. The test showed negative results for syphilis and Hep B, and chlamydia and gonorrhea were not detected. And even though she was visibly distressed and upset after the stunt, Lily kept posting about her next increasingly over-the-top projects.
So today I actually broke the world record for the most amount of professional scenes shot in one day. So the record was 9 and we ended up doing 10. And what's even crazier is 2 of them scenes had about 40 guys involved in them. I still haven't washed my hair. I'm very crusty dusty. So today I did my first video where I had 40 guys. They just all had to put their juice on me. Now, honestly, I felt like I was in Nickelodeon getting slimed by the end of it. On the 15th December, I'm having over 300 guys.
She also announced that she's planning to take it even further by attempting a marathon with 1,000 men in 24 hours.
Last week, I did 101 guys. Now, this was just the warm-up because in February, I'm going to be the first person ever to reach 4 digits of guys all in one day. Yes, 1,000 guys.
And of course, the internet became very concerned for her well-being, asking her not to go through with it. Please don't sleep with the 1,000. I'm literally begging you. Please consider the choices you're making in life. You're a bright, intelligent woman. Find a way to heal. You don't need to find togetherness in the way you're doing life currently. The challenge for 1,000 people in one day is a public health hazard, to say the least. This behavior is so dangerous and reckless. It shouldn't be normalized. As a medical professional, this is absolutely disturbing all around. She seems absolutely broken at the end, doesn't recommend it, but now she's talking about doing 1,000 in a day? She's got a lot to unpack. The people around her who saw her after 100 guys and then forced her to commit to 1,000 a week later need to be arrested. Coercive control, perhaps. This is a sad story all around. At this point, is it about breaking records or a serious breakdown? What does one woman's decision to go viral like this say about mental health, internet culture, and how far content creators are willing to go in the name of content? Will Lily stop her plans before February? Either way, I'll be here with the tea. Please be respectful in the comments.